Good morning, children. Today we are going to continue with the story of Brighter Still. So, in the very beginning, we have got the introduction of King Brahmadutta. He was from Banaras. He was a healthy and wealthy king, but he was not wise. Like other kings, he used to hunt. He was interested in hunting, and his favorite animal to hunt was deer. Now, what kind of person he was, or why he was not called a wise king, as it is mentioned here that why is it mentioned here that he was not wise, though he was a healthy and wealthy king, but still why he was not wise? Let's see. Because he rode his chariot and recklessly shot arrows everywhere. Whenever he used to go for hunting, he used to ride his chariot, okay, and he used to just shoot everywhere without making any aim or any target. And that's how he used to destroy the crops. And not only that, he would ride over the freshly planted fields and destroy the crop. And it is also even said here that he would take men from the village to help in the hunt, and that was mostly at the time of harvesting time. Okay, generally he used to take people with him just to help him in hunting, which was not even required, because he would be the person, he was the person who was interested in hunting, and he would be hunting, so he does not require any such person to assist him. But still, just to show his royal nature, he would carry people from the village to along with him for hunting, and that too he used to carry those people at the time of the harvest. Now we know that the village people, they are mostly in the village, mostly they are occupied in the occupation of farming. So at the harvest time, we can understand that how crucial, how important it is for the farmers. Okay, so when the peasants saw him, so that was the reaction, okay, that was the impression of the king in front of the village members. Now when the peasants or the farmers, or we can say the village people, used to see him, they did not like him, they did not like his appearance, they did not greet him with joy. Instead, they looked at the ground and shook their heads mournfully. They were bound to shook their heads, they were bound to shake their heads down, they were bound to bend down their heads as a form of showing respect, but there was no form of happiness in greeting their king. One day, so while these things were continuing, while all these problems were continuing, the farmers, the other village people, they were disturbed by all these problems that they were facing, because the crops that were being destroyed, since the crops were destroying, so that would also result in decreasing the income of the village people, right, the we can say the farmers. So now what happened, one day after much discussion, since they were troubled by all these situations, so the people of the villages decided to build a big park with a huge wall and a sturdy gate and put all the deer inside it. So what will happen? King Brahmadutta, he can continue his hunting, as well as the people, the village people, they won't be disturbed, or they won't be troubled by the problematic nature or of King Brahmadutta. So the king could then hunt in the park without troubling them. The king would also hunt, and these people, they will also not be troubled. So they made a great park with brooks and ponds and thickets, just the sort of thing deer like. So they planned that they will make a big park, they will construct a big park, and they will also cover that big park with huge walls and a sturdy gate, as it is mentioned here, a huge wall and a sturdy gate, so that the deer are not able to run away from there, they are not able to flee the park. So as the kind of atmosphere, the kind of arrangements that was needed, the village people all did that, okay. And seeing that, the deer started following inside the park. When a group of deer went inside the park, seeing them, the others also moved. Okay, the other deer followed in large numbers. They did not know that they were being trapped. Since we are reading the story, so we can understand that why the park was built up, and why is this particular line written here that they were being trapped. Because we can understand that once the park is built up, later in the future, Brahmadutta would come there and he would be hunting. And we all know that what is the meaning of hunting. Obviously, the deer would be killed. So, in a way, they were getting trapped. More followed. The deer kept on following. As the deer ate fresh grass and drank cool water, they said good things about the new forest and did not listen to the warnings of their leader. So the deer were quite happy with the arrangements that were made inside the park. That means they felt the same they could experience in the natural world. So they felt everything was similar, but they were actually getting inside the park. Okay, they were not inside. They were not in the natural world. There were, now comes the most important part. Okay, one more thing I forgot to tell you. You please do mark these two paragraphs 1 and 2, because this will be needed as a characterization of King Brahmadutta. Now, in paragraph 5, we will get to know about the group of deer that is given. There were two big herds of deer in Banaras, so there were two leaders. As there was two groups, so there was two leaders for each group. Sorry, one leader for each group. So in total, there were two leaders. The leaders were the most beautiful animals. One was the color of gold, so bright that it hurt to look at him. He was called brighter than the sun. So just by the name itself, we can imagine that what kind of body appearance the first leader had. The other, although it seems impossible, was even brighter. So that was what he was called, brighter still. So this is the description about the two leaders. So even this paragraph also you can mark. Next, let's see what happens now. Now we have already been introduced with the leaders. Now let's see. As they could not leave the herds to their fate, brighter than the sun and brighter still also came into the park. Then the peasants closed the gates and they sent some people to let Brahmadutta know this. So while all the arrangements were now ready, now the leaders, they thought that since they are the leaders, so they cannot leave the group to die. Okay, here the word fate means what is going to happen with them. What is the destiny of the group of deer? Okay, because they were trapped inside the park, so definitely they were going to die. So that is what their fate was. That is what was going to happen next. So brighter still and brighter than the sun, they thought that they could not leave their group members to their fate just to die. So they also entered the park. And once all the deer entered the park, the village people, they closed the gate and went to inform Brahmadutta about this. The next week, Brahmadutta went to inspect the park. He found everything very beautiful. As he walked about the park, he saw deer peeping out of the bushes. Now here he meets, while he gets inside the park, he meets the two leaders. Okay, brighter than the sun and brighter still. So it looked bright and golden. Brahmadutta thought this deer was brighter than the sun, so he meets both the leaders. Now while he sees brighter than the sun, he understood that it was that leader. But soon another stag walked into his view. His silver antlers gleamed in the sun and his amber eyes glowed. The fire of his golden body lit up the park. Brahmadutta exclaimed that the deer was brighter still and nearly fainted. It was already given, the description was given about the appearance of both the leaders, that how they appeared, brighter than the sun and brighter still. How they appeared, brighter still was even brighter than the sun. Okay, so you just can imagine what kind of a light it would happen if he just appears. Okay, so seeing that light, seeing the whole park which was gleaming, okay, Brahmadutta was nearly about to faint away. The men around him rushed up to him with some strong tea. They just went to help Brahmadutta, and then Brahmadutta, while he came back to his senses, he made a speech. Now, this 8 number paragraph is very important. It tells you about the speech, the order of the king. It tells you that I'm really pleased with the park and shall hunt here often. The 2 golden deer are not to be harmed, for they are kings and kings should not be harmed. I want you to mark this line. Okay, this paragraph 8. So, this was the order of King Brahmadutta. He said that he was very pleased with the arrangements of the park, and he also said that the golden deer, they should not be harmed in any way. Whenever he comes for hunting, the people needs to make sure that these 2 golden deer, the 2 leaders, they should not be harmed in any way. And why? What was the reason? Why should they not be harmed? The king said that these 2 leaders, they are kings. They are the leaders. Okay. And kings are not supposed to be harmed. And Brahmadutta went to the park every day with a large group. The deer would panic. So whenever he went for hunting, you just can imagine that how the deer can behave. Okay, they would run to save their life. They were unable to flee the park. Some deer were killed and many were wounded and died later. So some, as we have already known that Brahmadutta, he used to shoot arrows recklessly, carelessly. So sometime it happened that his arrow was shot in place, and sometime it happened and this thing happened, and luckily that means many of the deer just died on the spot, whereas with some others what happened is that they got injured and maybe they died later. Okay, so this is the thing which happened. Now is the tension of the leaders building up. Brighter still approached brighter than the sun and said, "Friend, our hearts are being torn apart." Just in the way Brahmadutta is coming and hunting the animals, the deer. So in this way, once a time will come when all the deer will be finished. They will have been killed by that time. So they just can't sit like that being a leader. So he said that our hearts are being torn apart by pain and despair. They are all dying of pain. Our losses are high and in a few days we shall be destroyed. Okay, so brighter still he says that I have a plan. Let us take turns and die willingly. We shall draw lots every day and thus decide who is to die. Brighter than the sun thought this was fair. So brighter still, he came up with a plan that he brought an idea that what they are going to do from now is that they will decide that who is going to die, and the deer, as they will decide that which deer is going to die, so that deer will come from themselves and they will ask for death from Brahmadutta itself. It means that they will come from themselves and they will offer their life. They will ask for death. Okay, they will bend down and they will ask for death. Brighter than the sun thought this was fair. Okay, then let's do this. He thought that, okay, this should work. So let's, maybe some result may come out of that. So let's try this. So the plan was then put to work. Brahmadutta found this out and was angry. He could not shoot a deer when it was at his feet bowing. Now comes the main point, that a king can, for his interest, go for hunting. Okay, he can hunt, he can shoot at any animal, and he can watch the deer or the animal running for life. That will be a pleasure for a king. But if, on the other hand, the animal itself doesn't run away and rather comes from itself and asks for death from the king, then how or what kind of situation is that? That is not acceptable. The king is not going to accept that. So he said that it was beneath his dignity, it was below his position. As a king, he can't do that. Okay, as a king, he can have pleasure, but he cannot accept this fact that a deer will come from itself and that deer will ask for death. Okay, he was a king, not a butcher. Butcher means the persons who cut the meat, okay, the flesh. Nevertheless, the king let his men kill a deer every day. Now what happened? This Brahmadutta, he now gave his final statement that from now on he will not hunt. Rather, in his place, the hunting will carry on, no doubt. But in his place, his men will hunt.